A man who was killed by an illegal alien drunk driver. The drunk driver was arrested and then released by Chicago, Cook County specifically, that has a sanctuary policy. They didn't tell the feds about him, and he fled to Mexico. Well, this is a case that I think is going to upset you, rightly. It's about a man who was killed by an illegal alien drunk driver. The drunk driver was arrested and then released by Chicago, Cook County specifically, that has a sanctuary policy. They didn't tell the feds about him, and he fled to Mexico. And after 10 years, he was finally extradited. And now the Biden administration is hiding the extradition records from us. So that's the summary of the case, and here are the details. We filed a new lawsuit against the Justice Department and the Biden State Department for extradition records of an illegal alien. His name is Saul Chavez, who ran over and killed William Denny McCann, the brother of our client, Brian McCann. The lawsuit was filed after both agencies, refused to turn over Chavez's extradition records. And this is the background. In June 2011, Chavez ran over and killed Denny McCann, brother of Judicial Watch client Brian McCann, as I said. At the time, Chavez was unlawfully present. He was an illegal alien. He was an unlawfully present criminal alien and had just completed a 2-year term of probation under a 2009 DUI conviction. So he crosses the border illegally, or he's here illegally, and he commits another crime, and he's still here. He was charged with felony aggravated driving under the influence, but was released by the Cook County Sheriff's Office in November 2011, despite a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainer. And as I said earlier, Chavez then fled to Mexico. He was finally extradited from Mexico back in December of 2022. Now, we filed a FOIA request to the State Department for Chavez's extradition records, and also the Justice Department. The State Department has failed completely to respond, let alone produce any records. The Justice Department denied the request outright, citing, among other reasons, the privacy interests of the criminal Chavez. So this is just, can you imagine being Denny's brother and his family and getting the runaround from the feds about this desperate effort to get justice for your brother who was killed? In July 2015, our client Brian testified before the United States Senate Judiciary Committee in a hearing titled Oversight of the Administration's Misdirected Immigration Enforcement Policies, examining the impact on public safety and honoring the victims. So this was during the Obama administration. And this is the story, and it's going to be very upsetting. Denny was crossing Kedzie Avenue on a marked crosswalk 4 years ago and was violently struck by a drunk driver who dragged Denny under his car for a block in an attempt to flee before Denny died. The family was notified by the Chicago police, and the killer was placed into custody and charged, as I said earlier, with aggravated DUI, causing death. 2 days later, ICE issued a detainer because the young man was an illegal alien with a prior felony. The family was assured by the Cook County prosecutor that the defendant would not be allowed to post bail and be released. But 3 months later, the Cook County Board passed the ordinance that effectively requires the sheriff to ignore detainers. During the intervening weeks after Denny's violent death, Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle and former mayoral candidate and Commissioner Jesus Garcia pushed for the ordinance and rammed it through on September 17th, 2011. So all this is around the time his brother was killed. 2 months later, the killer made bail and absconded to Mexico. I mean, can you imagine? They had him and they let him go. And he did what any sensible person would know would happen, which is he went back to Mexico. This is what Brian said about this latest lawsuit to get records about this 10-year plus extradition process. My family and I continue to seek justice for Denny. Now that he has been extradited from Mexico, we are one step closer, but we still want to know what took so long. With the help of Judicial Watch, we hope to find out. I tell you, that's what makes it easy to come to work for Judicial Watch, knowing you're helping people get information like Brian's trying to get with our help. And as I noted, Denny McCann was killed by an illegal alien with a prior felony, and that criminal was released and fled to Mexico as a result of Chicago's lawless and deadly sanctuary policies. And to make matters worse, the Biden administration is unlawfully hiding records about why it took over a decade to extradite from Mexico this murderous criminal. So we're in federal court. You know, previously we had sued as part of our effort to obtain justice for Denny. We filed a lawsuit on behalf of Brian, his brother, against the Cook County Sheriff in April 2013, asking the court to order the Sheriff's Department to carry out its legal duties under federal law, which requires, you know, they comply with these detainers, or at least report to the feds when they've got someone they need or want. Chavez had been charged with a felony aggravated driving, but was released. And despite that, unfortunately, the case was dismissed by the circuit court, and afterwards, the Illinois Supreme Court didn't want to hear the case. So this is a big deal. I mean, even if Biden had done what Trump had wanted, which is to have a wall, I'd want it 100 feet high, it wouldn't work if, and I don't think much in the way of any border security will work, as long as once you got across the border, you were free and clear, thanks to sanctuary policies like Cook County. So, you know, we've got this invasion caused by the Biden administration's contemptuous open border policies, meaning contemptuous for the Constitution and our sovereignty and the rule of law. But on top of that, once these illegal aliens are here in the United States, they're aided and abetted by these sanctuary policies and protected from the consequences of additional illegal acts by these local politicians who don't care about the safety of citizens, aliens, both legal and illegal. Because obviously these folks victimize many others beyond just U.S. citizens in their communities. We have an immigration crisis caused in part, obviously, by the border. That's a big part of it. But another big part of it is the sanctuary policies that are endemic in virtually every major big city in the United States that aid and abet and coddle and protect illegal aliens, including criminals, and in this case, a deadly criminal. And so Judicial Watch has been, over the years, pushing hard, pushing back, educating the American people about the dangers of these sanctuary policies. They're not only lawless, but they're deadly. And we're honored to be able to help Brian McCann, and we're honored to try to get justice for Denny McCann, who was just crossing the street, and he was killed by a drunk driver, and rather than the law being enforced, the leftists in Chicago, to make a political point, let his killer out. And it's now taken 10 years to even begin to get justice, thanks to that lawlessness that has harmed the public safety and so damaged this murder, this killing, I call it murder, this murder victim's family. And so we're happy to do the work. Of course, we only do it with your support. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.